Alright, hello. This is the Extremely Woke Gamer, brought to you by Monster Energy Drink and Howard Zinn. And today we're playing Birth of America 2, Wars in America. This is a historical strategy game by AJOD. It's considered one of the more accessible games in this series. People recommend you start with it if you want to play some of their other games. So let's go to new game, and we have a bunch of scenarios from 1636 covering the French and Indian War, the Revolutionary War, and then the War of 1812. So from 1636 to 1815. So the first scenario is a tutorial scenario. I'm not actually going to do that first one. I'm going to do the one it's based on, which is the 1776 Carolina scenario. And we're going to be playing as Great Britain. Okay, so looking at this map, as you can see, it's not very fancy if you're used to something that's a little more arcadey, a little more of the mob, the crowd, the masses. You're probably playing, Total War games. They're all fancy, fancy schmancy. These are much more like tabletop strategy games. With, it's a pretty good looking map. It's not ugly. I'm not knocking the game makers or whatever, but this is an army. This is a unit. In South Carolina Royalists, so Loyalist militia in the middle of the American Revolutionary War. Now, as you can see, it's drag and drop. This unit's a garrison unit, meaning it's meant to just really defend this city, Augusta. And you can tell that Augusta is a pretty important city because it's colored in red. Our important cities are orange colored. And the ones that we have to hold on to, the strategic cities, have a white name on red background. So Augusta, 96, which is a real place in South Carolina. No one's really sure why it's called 96. And then over here we have Charleston, which is really the centerpiece of the battle. And then Camden, Charlotte, which is just a little village back in Revolutionary times. Hillsborough is in American hands. So the important American cities have blue backgrounds. They're not white because we don't possess them. And then their minor sort of forts and cities are in light green. So over here on the left, you can see it's a map of pretty much everything east of the Mississippi. And for this particular scenario, we're only concentrating on sort of really just the Carolinas, as the scenario is called, the deep south of the colonies. And our main focuses are on these two cities, Wilmington in North Carolina and Charleston in South Carolina. And it's meant to replicate a very real siege attempt in 1776 by the British to take Charleston, which in real life they failed. And that was a big victory for the revolutionaries. Yeah. So in 96 we have 3 units. It's just, a stack of a garrison. It's a leader and 2 militia units, the Georgia Tories and the Georgia Volunteers, more loyalists. And your leader gives these units some experience and some direction, so they're more effective in battle. So to win this scenario, you have to really defeat the Americans and take, especially Charleston and Wilmington. They're important, but you also want to try to get Camden as well, and Charlotte is important for them. So, and a lot hinges on whether or not you're able to storm Charleston, because that's the most well-defended of the cities. Anyway, so we're going to make a gambit here and presume that the American player computer, the AI, whatever you want to call it, isn't going to make a run for 96. So you just drag and drop. So you pick it up, holding down your mouse, and you just drop it in Augusta. And we want them to go to Augusta because we're going to use them to besiege Charleston. Now we also have 2 units up here in Salisbury and Salem. And what I'm going to do with the Salisbury one is I'm going to move them to Charlotte because Charlotte's important for them and us. And Salisbury's not so important. I'm going to take our troops in Salem and have them move down here towards Wilmington. But I want them to avoid going through Crooks Creek. So to cancel a movement, you just pick it up, the unit, and drop it where it is, and then I'll erase whatever route you've picked out for it. So I'm going to have this person come down to Clarendon to help storm Wilmington. That's the North Carolina Volunteers. Loyalists. So down here, we have different postures that units can take. There's an assault posture, which is to storm a unit, to attack at all costs. Offensive, which means they'll engage or besiege a city, but they won't throw themselves at it. Defensive posture, which is the defense, and then passive posture, which only really occurs after you've been defeated in battle. And it carries heavy penalties if you're attacked in the next turn. So you always want to be out of this posture. And then below that, you have 4 choices that basically indicate how strongly you're going to be that thing, ranging from hold at all costs, so a more aggressive form of defense, to defend and retreat, to just plain retreat. We want this guy to be in offensive mode and sustained attack or conservative attack, because we don't really want him to fight anyone a major battle on his way to Wilmington. We kind of wanted him just to show up here so he can help out in the next turn. So really, this is essentially what we're dealing with here. It's not very big. It's a short scenario. Now the short scenarios are actually pretty difficult because you have less turns to sort of goof around in. You can't always wait for a city to fall. And you never really know what the AI is going to do. Alright, so if you right click, this is where you start with default. This is the message screen, and you can sort of scroll through it, and it gives you like we're gaining support in these different American held cities. We received a unit in Salem. Tory militias were called to arms, and then we know that a British naval squadron has arrived in the southern coast. So here they are off the coast of Wilmington. Now, historically, I think it was Sir Henry Clinton who arrived, but in the game, for some reason, it's Cornwallis. Charles Cornwallis and Peter Parker's ship. So these are regular troops, which means they're better than militias. Now, we start out up here near Wilmington. Wilmington is usually lightly held. So what you can do is, holding down control, you select your leader, so Sir John Vaughan, and one of these regular infantry troops, drag and drop from this bottom part, and they'll show up here on the map. And it'll say in white down here how long it's going to take them. So every turn is 30 days. So in 5 days, they're going to arrive here. And, so after that, we want them to go into siege mode. So he'll get there. It looks like he'll have to camp out. Then we want to move the rest of the fleet with the rest of the troops on it down to Charleston. because that's going to be the tough nut to crack. So we've got Charlotte. Our unit moved to Charlotte and didn't have any opposition. We have that unit in Salem, and actually I'm going to keep them in Salem to stop anyone coming down from Hillsborough to our other troops. So this guy's still coming to siege Wilmington, and our guys in Augusta. So I don't think anyone, there's a militia in Savannah, but I'm not too worried about them coming to attack me. So I think I'll combine okay. So to combine units, you'll put this guy outside of Augusta. You'll drag this guy on top of him, and you'll see that there's two blue guys connecting, and that'll merge the units. So I'll set Thomas Brown into siege mode and have him go for Charleston. He'll get there in 24 days, so Charleston will already be under siege before the next turn. So it's kind of like a chess match in that, you know the strategies and everything. And this is a part of why I'm so woke. I mean, like, regular people play, like, Call of Duty, and they play, like, the regular hoi polloi type games. But, like, for those of us who actually are interested in, like, strategy and the big picture, and, acknowledging and accepting the history that goes along with this time period. I mean, that's important. All right. So be there in 7 days. Let's unload Cornwallis and the rest of the troops. Sir Peter Parker is not Spider-Man, he's an admiral, so he stays on the ships. So have them unload here in Dorchester, around Charleston. Meanwhile, Sir John Vaughan's up here. Let's see. So up here, if you mouse over the compass, you can see that there's 2 turns left. I'm just going to besiege Wilmington and hope that it'll fall. And let's go after Charleston. So I said earlier that this is really where why this scenario is meaningful, is that there was a revolutionary general named American named Moultrie, who was responsible for defending South Carolina at Fort Sullivan. No! And he succeeded. So the Fort Sullivan was a American victory against a British attack. But I believe Charleston and Wellington both fell in 1780 later on. And Fort Sullivan is interesting because it's where a lot of slaves came through when they were coming to America. I believe it was like the main port for receiving the slave trade. They don't talk about that in this game, There's no mention of the history behind Fort Sullivan and the institution of slavery. So we won in Wilmington. I guess we can just defend here. There's a militia here. just try to keep the army occupied, and that gets you victory points, which helps you win. So I've turned Cornwallis and the Loyalists to assault mode, and I dragged them on top of Charleston, so in the next turn they'll try to storm Charleston because we're running out of turns here. We'll try to horror into Wilmington and try to get a victory at Crooks Creek. Yay, so we won in this timeline. The British win at Charleston. Alright, so Moultrie tried to attack us at Fort Sullivan and got defeated. Oh, Charles Lee! Charles Lee! From Assassin's Creed 3 fame, attempted to attack us at the Battle of Salem but was defeated. Oh, this place is crazy. You know, I've never been to North Carolina, even though, like Charlotte's like the biggest city between DC and Atlanta. Now, back then it was nothing. Nothing! Oh god, okay. Whew, for a minute there I thought it was going to crash on me. Alright. Okay, so we got Charleston. I'm going to leave Brown's army there. I'm going to take Cornwallis and have him go for Camden. And he'll be there in 29 days, so just before the end of the turn. This will be the last turn. Alright, I still have Charlotte, baby. In fact, I'll have this guy fall back and merge with the guy in Charlotte. So why don't you try that to see if you've mastered the art of merging. So remember, just drop him back where he is to cancel the order. Wait for the two blue guys and merge him. And he'll be there in 11 days before the other next turn to help defend Charlotte. And I guess I'll have this guy go back to Wilmington to help. And, yeah, so Cornwallis is going to Camden. We'll see if that's going to go our way. So I just wanted to... Oh no, we lost Charlotte. Come on. Lanude Ferry, okay. Oh no, they took Augusta! Oh man, I slept on that. And they took 96. And Charlotte! Ooh, they got me. Alright, we won! The enemy national morale has been shattered and we have won a glorious victory. Congratulations, sir. Your score 16, opponent's score 41? How is that a victory? So that's the frustrating thing about this game for me, is that it'll say, hold all these, you need these requirements to win. So Charleston, Wilmington, and I think it was 3 others, so like Camden, 96, Augusta, and or Charlotte. And, we still won without holding that because we just got Charleston and Wilmington. Crazy. So there's Moultrie over in Georgetown. And I just wanted to read a little something about, from Howard Zinn about the Revolutionary War. It might enlighten your mind. Looking at the situation after the Revolution, Richard Morris comments, "Everywhere one finds inequality. He finds the people of we the people of the United States," a phrase coined by the very rich Gouverneur Morris, did not mean Indians or blacks or women or white servants. In fact, there were more indentured servants than ever, and the Revolution did nothing to end and little to ameliorate white bondage. Carl Degler says, no new social class came to power through the door of the American Revolution. The men who engineered the revolt were largely members of the colonial ruling class. George Washington was the richest man in America. John Hancock was a prosperous Boston merchant. Benjamin Franklin was a wealthy printer, and so on. So, just remember, the American Revolution was a bourgeois revolution for white plantation slave owners, okay? And it was a civil war between those slave owners, property holders who wanted to stay British and those who wanted to break away. And what got them all pissed off is because they weren't being allowed to govern themselves. It was not a democratic movement. It was a bourgeois class interest movement, class struggle. And the regular working people of America, the tenants, the landowners, the wage earners, suffered in this. Not to mention anything, about the slaves, obviously, Native Americans, and women being totally excluded from politics. But, boom, I'm the extremely woke gamer. I'm here to talk about these awesome games, but I'm also here to shed some light on, white privilege in video games. So check your privilege, bro. Alright, well, I will see you next time with another video about the Pequot Wars, where I'm also going to talk about the Mystic Massacre of the Pequot Indians. So check that out and check your privilege, baby.